kind of plug into channels that, let's say like a VC or hedge fund or something like that, higher level people would be paying attention to, like press releases, right? So we have the press releases that we have, well, we have an RSS feed that's pulling from press releases. And if you don't know how these press releases work, you basically are just putting out information about a company, event, whatever, and it's just so that the general public knows about it. So it could be a way that if we plug into these press release outlets, I guess you would call them, like these organizations that you can sign up for free and put out that information, kind of like we're doing here with the community calls, but just put that out in a more public way. Um, we could get basically free attention. And maybe some of these big crypto news outlets would do a story on us, would be like the ultimate version of that. But if that doesn't happen, it still doesn't matter. These high level organizations still have people combing through these press releases to find alpha, basically macro alpha or community alpha or project alpha, company alpha, whatever it is, right? So we're considering that as a way to market DeFi-Logic to the world, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. But we also, like G was saying, we broke down the channels this week. If you guys have feedback, please let us know. We know that it's overwhelming currently, so we're trying to figure out the best way to organize it. If we can do better than we are. If not, then I guess people are just gonna have to figure out how the channels break down, and especially forum, we're still trying to figure that out. But on forum, we have it broken down so that basically all the daily dose stuff. If you aren't aware, what we've done is we've basically created a system where all the mods, where we think that they can thrive best, and where we're not asking them to like deliver too much. In terms of their skill sets, just drop a little bit of alpha, analysis, research, whatever, based on the different where we've siloed the mods into these different areas, right? So whether it's like FA, TA, shit coins, meme coins, whatever. And what else do we have? Well, we have blockchain auditing coming up because Trill got his cert. So congrats on that. I already put out the announcement, but and we have another member in the Discord who's working on his certs. So once we get that ironed out a little bit more, we can start probably taking, using the voting bot for proposals on the various contracts to be audited weekly, and put that out. Also, the TA channel is an AMA with Crazy Fool. So we've set it up so that if you have any TA questions or want, more insights on how to get better at TA, he will be answering questions weekly directly in that channel. So if you need help figuring that out, please reach out to us. We've started talking about how we can better target the ideal customer for our server. We realize that this is a lot more complicated than we first anticipated. So we're trying to figure out exactly who we want in the server, and really just have people self-select themselves in, if that makes sense. What else? G, you want to talk about the website and the algorithm stuff that we were talking about? G. Oh, you just dropped off. All right. So basically, we're working on the website currently. but the dev just actually got in a car accident, so that kind of got delayed a little bit. So thoughts and prayers, drop that in the appropriate chat for her. Gush is the dev. She's actually in the server, but she says it's a little overwhelming for her. She doesn't use Discord regularly, so she's not active. Um, and then to add on in terms of the marketing stuff, I was talking about press releases earlier, but we're talking about on the back end how we've been noticing, and probably you guys have been noticing that the algorithm has changed on Twitter. And Christine was talking about how she noticed the algorithms changing on Instagram. So, just thinking about how in the macro, Elon acquiring Twitter, what happens is that obviously there's going to be changes, but in terms of trying to figure out these algorithms, I use the example of SEO experts, right? And so how they figure out the algorithm when Google changes it is they have to intuitively put together a picture of what's happening on the front end when there's an update. And so we're trying to come up with some kind of system. We don't really know what that looks like yet, but in terms of figuring out the algorithm changes that are undeniably coming for all these platforms because of the acquisition of Twitter by Elon. So how we can better use these platforms for DeFi logic, we're trying to figure that out in an actionable way before we start putting the information on Twitter and these various other outlets. I think that about covers everything. Let me know if I missed anything, partners. Okay, I think that's pretty much about it. Are there any questions, feedbacks, things that you guys have on your mind, things you want answered?
Sounds like everyone's good.
Alrighty,
Any
well,
any updates? So we were all considering about uh the launch time and being closer to the bottom of the market with everything going on. Any sort of discussion about how close we are to that in terms of the bottom of the market and when launching time and whether it's still the same?
is that for me or is that for the?
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's just in
Oh,
general. I mean, I don't see it getting any better anytime soon, at least for the next 6 months plus. It's probably gonna be pretty bad, honestly.
yeah. I don't see it getting any better. And things in the macro aren't looking very good, especially if they
How does
hold
the
rates.
whole how do we all think with Elon Musk and Twitter and whole Dogecoin and all of that coming to light again? How is that? How much impact is that going to have to the markets? Do we think, if any?
I mean, personally, I'd say it's more hopeful than anything.
Hmm.
Hopium. Stocks are getting wrecked. Tech companies, they're laying people off.
Ligma
Um,
Johnson.
yeah, Ligma Johnson over at Twitter. Yeah, I don't see it getting any better. So, I mean, it's something we're obviously on the back end taking into account, right? In terms of launch. Again, like I think I said last week, we're not really trying to rush it. We're trying to do it right. So that's also why we don't have anything on Twitter yet. Um, but once we get the daily dose figured out in the next couple of weeks, all the mods putting in their research and all that good stuff, we will start putting it out not only on Twitter, but we'll be writing up like weekly summaries for the website when the website's live. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it.
The last thing that comes to mind was the focus being when we do launch and as we go into launch, the whole idea is to push for free trials from a
Oh yeah,
marketing and sales perspective. We want to convert people to come on board and join as a 7-day free trial and tier two. We wouldn't actually go to market and ask people to purchase our membership, because what we want to do is allow them to come in, experience, see what it's like, and whether this is for them before they go ahead and spend money, then have to go through refunds. And then that sale becomes a lot easier as well. So that transition from sales to marketing. So if anyone has any thoughts about that in terms of going to market with the free trial and selling and things like that, any kind of experience, then please do let us know, because that's primarily what we're building. Not to say that we won't push and sell anything, but what would happen is people would sign up for a free trial, they'll get the 7 days, and after, on the 8th day, they would automatically get billed for their subscription. So we would still collect payments, and there still would be a push for sale, but it would be a lot of softer push, essentially. So that's the direction sort of we're heading when we go into launch.
Yeah, and what I was talking about in terms of the self-selecting, that's kind of part of the process, right? So like providing questions on the About Us page and on the sales side, kind of like posing questions to the potential customer for self-evaluation to see like, okay, like, am I answering yes to all or most of these questions? Okay, then if we convert them to a trial, I feel like they would be more likely, or we feel like they would be more likely to stay and mitigate that churn rate rather than just trying to onboard a whole bunch of people. That's definitely not the goal at all. We want to keep the community going in the right direction. I've personally noticed having conversations outside of our server with normies and high-level people, there is a tendency for humans to not be able to understand nuance of things that are discussed, or they get too emotional, and we don't want our server turning into a cesspool of emotion where people are making a whole bunch of bad decisions, because that's a reflection on us as a community. So it would be better if we had less people make less money, but it's a healthier community. You know what I mean? That's the idea. So we're trying to figure out how to, like, I don't know. And I think this was a conversation I had with Skylar, was kind of like what G and I have been putting together, and then what I framed, or how I framed it to Skylar. He's like, oh, then like kind of like a personality test or something. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's essentially what we're trying to do in a more intuitive way. Obviously, we don't need them to fill out a form or something, but check themselves before they click the button, basically. All right, any other, well, there haven't been, but any questions, comments, concerns, any thoughts?
Are you guys set on a 7-day trial period? Because I was just thinking, like, hopefully people will see like the value within like a couple days that they'll want to make the decision. So do you think that like maybe making the trial like a 3-day or a 4-day trial would be a little bit better, so that they could
It's in line with the daily dose,
you know?
because if you think about the daily dose as a whole, there's 7
they
days
get a full week.
of value, right? So if someone's specific to one thing over the others, they actually get, no matter which day they turn, they'll have a whole 7 days of information they can then choose. Actually, you know, I really liked FA. I'm glad I stayed until Friday too, or I was waiting for TA Tuesdays and got my questions answered.
Right. I see. All right, cool.
And it's also a bit more sort of like an industry standard as well. It's either 7, 14, 21, but anything more than 2 weeks is just too much. We end up satiating it's just a bit too much.
Yeah, 3 days would have been too short too, because imagine the day your 3-day trial ends, that's when crypto wants to just do backflips all over the place, and you SOL. Yeah, so the 3 days would be kind of frustrating.
Yeah, someone comes up at home.
Yeah, no, the 7 days makes
it's a good point. I would do it one day if I could, but I need it to work for the other side as well.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And we're not trying to, like, the other thing is too, is like we want to mitigate the churn rate. So I personally don't mind. I mean, we don't want to give too much, But like, I don't mind giving people, especially in the bear market, giving people more time to make an informed decision, you know? Um, it's better to let people see the value and really understand it and then pay than not really have a good idea. Then they pay and then they're like, this is a horrible place, or you know what I mean? I don't know. Have to deal with that. That's not the idea. The idea is that we find more people like ourselves, and like ourselves means people that can think critically, understand nuance, understand context, because that's really what it's about, you know? All the
For
political
sure.
stuff that I say and I think isn't necessarily what I think as an opinion. It's just things that I notice in the macro. And I notice that a lot of people don't get that. And people have a hard time with understanding just simple things like between definitions or observations and opinions, you know? There's a big difference. And I had that discussion with someone in another server this weekend who's like a high level crypto guy. It's been in crypto for a very long time. And he couldn't understand the difference between a process and a state of decentralization. Complete decentralization is not the same thing as the process of decentralization from a centralized entity. And he couldn't understand that. He got a little emotional about it. So just because that guy has a good understanding of crypto, do we want him in our server? If he's gonna be like throwing temper tantrums like that and think that I'm getting mad, I'm not getting mad, dude. I'm simply stating a fact, you know? So if we get like a whole bunch of people in there like that, in there being our community, our server, that's too much of a headache to mitigate. We don't need to deal with that. You know what I mean? So it's better to like we're just trying to figure out a way that people can self-select themselves out of clicking the button, in to clicking the button, and also out during the trial and in during the trial, if that makes sense, right? So like a couple of gates
Yeah.
before they become a long-time community member. Because churn rate is a
Yeah.
huge thing, trying to figure out the lifetime value of a customer. So, I
Mhm.
mean, the people in this call have been in the server for a long time, right? And for the most part, at least, right? And so that already says a lot about the community that we're trying to build. So we're not just trying to build any community for the sake of making a few dollars, right? I guess that's the point.
Yeah, and the transparency and the openness is really nice too. You know, that non-attachment. We want you to join, but if it's not for you, that's cool. We'll give you a fair shot at seeing what we have, you know, going on and our value, and in the end, it's their decision. So
Right. Right.
yeah, that's great. Another thing to add on is, you know, since we, you know, are a big mission statement or target point for onboarding people is like we're looking for like a self-aware person who is willing to like make improvements and you know just like improve in all aspects of their life. You know, there's communities out here too in the crypto space that do embody those traits too. So you know, like joining or you know doing like Twitter spaces with them in the future, or you know identifying those communities that we see something that you know identifies with something that we have too. Um, you know, we can kind of could be a good way to bring people and like cross pollinate, so to speak.
I'll let Queen. What was the word you just kept using? It just slipped my mind. I was trying to make a joke and I just failed. Totally big
Uh,
L.
I don't know. I can't remember. I said cross pollinate,
Yeah.
but
Anyway, Christine does a lot of what you're talking about right now, trying to figure out like what communities to
yeah,
work with, what they'll be a good fit with. So, Christine, if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Yes, so as we build up to lunch, and I'll probably continue, of course, after lunch, I'm working on networking with other people that in this space have, I guess, a healthy mindset. So I'll be doing one-on-one Twitter spaces and getting those lined up and just very casual conversations, getting to know people. I suppose more of a just just making that connection now, feeling out different what they're about, the people that are running the communities, if they would be somebody we want to have another Twitter space with, but just I guess the Twitter spaces will be a little bit more investigative as far as what their mindset is, because usually the people that run the projects, their communities tend to mimic. So just kind of reaching out. So I'll be starting that probably, might be even this week. So, yep.
Cool.
And if anybody knows anybody, feel free to let me know. I don't have a problem setting up. I have decent flexibility with time, so I don't mind setting up Twitter spaces here and there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if I can add on, I mean, we're waiting to do a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because we're still building. We don't want to be David Moss being like, we're building, man. Like he literally said it like twice in the AMA. So like we don't want to sound like that
Still
because
building.
we are. What's that?
I said 2 years later, still building.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, it's fine to be building, okay? But like the problem is that we learn through strong block and not do the same thing is we can just build, and then when we have the thing, like we have, hey guys, we have the daily dose. It's actually a thing now. We're still like working to get it completely on track, but you can see it's there. So that's why we're putting it out now. You know what I mean? We don't have this other stuff ironed out. We don't have the ability to write up these articles I'm talking about because the website's not done. So we can't really like put stuff on Twitter because where are people going to find this information besides joining the server? That's fine. But we want to have all things launch at the same time, simultaneously. Have the whole system basically operational before we, before we go around telling everybody we're building.
Yeah, it is a really nice time though to create relationships in the space. That way when we are ready, it'll come together. I mean, so far the Twitter space is done. Everybody said, if you have another one, just let me know. I'm, available. So a lot of people do that backwards. They launch and then they reach out and they're like, hey, do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? But I'm going to use this time to do that ahead of time. That way I'm not asking anybody anything. It comes the other direction. So it's a nice time to do it. So I'm going to go for it and see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's organic. The organic way.
Yes, you got it.
Awesome.
Is this a good time for everybody to join these calls every week? Because we pushed this one back a little bit this week. What do you guys think?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Me too. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, perfect. I think we'll keep this time because there was a lot more people that showed up, and we've been trying to figure out the right time and all that stuff. So we'll try to keep it consistent. But yeah, I mean, if there's nothing else, I just want to check. There's no more questions or comments or anything like that. You want to be cognizant of the time.
No questions for me.
Sweet.
Nothing here.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining, and this will be up momentarily on YouTube for the rest of the community to listen to. So thanks for all the contributions. We really appreciate it. And frankly, I'm actually more excited about the vision now that I see everything working the way it is. And, maybe, I don't know if it's a reflection of us over-delivering, but I feel like the mods, for the most part, are over-delivering. So we just want to really appreciate that. And I think it just provides a lot of potential for this project now and in the future. So Just want to thank you guys for that, and have a nice rest of your Sunday. We will chat in the server.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good one.